Given the demands of academic vocabulary and the effect that word knowledge has on comprehension, teachers need to show students how they can figure out the meaning of unfamiliar words on their own. Students must practice the skill enough so that it becomes automatic. There are two main word-solving strategies. First, using context clues. We call this an outside-the-word strategy. A teacher might pause at an unfamiliar word and model using an illustration and familiar words in the same sentence to make inferences about the mystery word's meaning. The teacher's modeling should get across the fact that context clues don't always help and may be misleading. For example, a teacher might draw a student's attention to a diagram of the solar system as she points out that an elliptical orbit is shaped like an oval. I wasn't sure at first what elliptical meant, but the picture helped me understand that elliptical shape is not a perfect circle. Second strategy is looking inside the word. This strategy involves looking at prefixes, suffixes, bases, roots, and of the target word for clues to meaning. For example, when reading a science text out loud, a teacher could stop at the word carnivore and model his realization that carne is a Spanish word for meat. He might notice that this probably means that carnivores has something to do with meat, and went on to use context clues, the fact that the word was describing an animal's habits, to conclude that the word meant meat eating. A key point here is that newly or barely learned tasks do not make good independent learning activities. We need to provide support. Teachers should also model using dictionaries, internet resources, or even reliable peers to understand a word for those times when neither context clues or looking inside the word helps. Another strategy is highlighting a text's structures. One way readers extract meaning from text is through recognizing common text structures. Almost all narrative texts, for example, use a story grammar that includes character, setting, plot, conflict, resolution, dialogue, and various literary devices. Teachers should model using these structures as a tool for understanding stories. A teacher could pause in the reading of The Outsiders by S.E. Hinton by pointing out how a character's recitation of Robert Frost's poem "Nothing Gold Can Stay" at a key point in the story helps reveal themes of loss and redemption that are central to the novel, and that using a recurring phrase or image to highlight an underlying theme is a common text structure. Nonfiction texts also have internal structures, such as problem solution, cause and effect, compare, contrast, and description. Noticing which text structure helps the readers predict what kind of content the author might present next. It also helps people remember that they read and organize their thinking about a text, that it helps people remember what they read, and it will help organize their thinking about the text if they're asking these questions. For example, while reading a passage about the construction of the Transcontinental Railroad, a teacher could pause at a point where the author introduced the problem of pay differences between Chinese and white workers and talks with the class, "Now here's a problem. I can predict that the solution to the problem will come next, because that's how many authors write, by introducing a problem followed by a solution. I might even help myself remember this information by taking notes using a problem and solution chart. In many cases, the solution to one problem creates new problems. I wonder if that will be the case here." When the teacher came to the part of the text describing the Chinese workers' strike for higher wages, she pointed out that the author was following up the problem with its solution. Explaining text features. Students often need help understanding the text features using with many academic readings. The features that are included in these academic readings, such as tables, figures, bold and italicized words, and headings. Many students aren't even sure when they should read the text features, before, during, or after the text. But a lot of essential information, like looking through a table, can be presented in these features. Teachers should model how to thoughtfully analyze text features. For example, when looking at a table in a math textbook on the use of distance as a function of time, a teacher could point out that the column and row headings are important, and they could show the students how to use the columns and the rows to find information. The teacher could model how to interpret a legend on a map in a geography textbook to find out the longitude and latitude of a city. Another strategy is collaborative work. Armed with a clear learning objective and examples of the kind of thinking and actions they should engage in, students will be ready to work, but not to work independently yet. First, they need time to try out their fledgling understanding in collaborative work with their peers. Collaborative working transfers more responsibility to students, yet provides them with peer support. In the Apex environment, it might be possible to do some early lessons with two students working together. One person would get the answer, but they could be sitting next to each other, both of them working together to find the answers, and they could be working in lockstep, problem by problem together, just to get to know the program together. Back to this article. In any content area, students learn more and retain information longer when they work in productive groups. Students who work in collaborative groups tend to be more satisfied with their classes, complete more assignments, and generally like school better. To be productive, groups need sufficient time to interact, they need timelines, they need clear roles for everyone in the group, and tasks that truly call for interdependence. Ideal collaborative learning tasks are those that cannot be accomplished just as well by one individual. They require interaction and natural give and take of learning. But the real key to collaborative groups lies in accountability. Each student must be held accountable for some aspect of the work. Unfortunately, that's not always the case. We can all remember group work in which one student did all the work and everyone else got the credit. This situation not only prevents some students from learning, but also thwarts teachers' attempts to check for each student's understanding and link instruction with formative assessment. In addition to holding students individually accountable, teachers should hold up the entire group accountable for completing tasks. Tasks can vary from something as simple as straightening up the science area after a complicated experiment to something as complex as writing a group summary of a lesson. A teacher could, for example, ask students to complete a collaborative poster for each proof in a geometry class. Each student could contribute to the poster using an individually assigned color marker. And so then the teacher could see that 3 or 4 students had been working together. In addition, the group must ensure that each of the members can explain the proof independently. This requires a significant amount of reteaching, negotiation, support, and trust, and peer collaboration. Students assume responsibility for their learning and the learning of their peers.